Hey, how's it going, guys? My name is Chris Wood. This is going to be my new YouTube channel, Woody's Workshop. Pretty much I've worked in the automotive industry for the past 10 plus years. I've acquired a lot of knowledge. The focus of this channel is going to be pretty much to pass that knowledge on to you and all the do-it-yourselfers out there. Hopefully it will save you some bucks along the way, and maybe you learn something here or there. So if you like the video and you like the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so today we're going to be installing a EGR block-off plate kit for a 2017 F350 with the 6.7 liter diesel. I purchased this kit from Tom Nash at Diesel Race Kits on eBay. It's pretty much a budget EGR block-off plate kit. It's not doesn't have the fancy pass-through like the No Limit Fab kit or anything like that. But I'm a simple guy and I don't really feel that I need any of that. So here's the truck. It's a 2017 F350 8-foot bed. And believe it or not, that truck does fit in that little ass garage. It's close, but I'll set up the tripod and get a little video of that squeezing in there. Alright, so we're ready to start. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get your truck really hot, get it up to operating temp, drive it around the block a couple times. And what you're going to want to do is these bolts down here, right there and right there, are prone to breaking. So what you're going to want to get is you're going to want to get some type of penetrating oil, whether it's PB Blaster or something like this, Crest Rustec, and you're going to want to just spray those bolts. And you might have to go back a couple times over, and it might take a couple days. I've heard of a couple people spraying those bolts over and over throughout the week just to get that oil down in there into the threads and help loosen up any rust or just pretty much break those bolts up, because this inside bolt is really prone to snapping on disassembly. So anything you can do to assist with that is going to be key. That wasn't too bad. What you saw me do there is on that inside bolt, when I was initially trying to loosen it counterclockwise, it wasn't really going, I could feel, you know, quite a bit of tension. So what I did is I went ahead and flipped my ratchet around and bumped it clockwise to try and just reverse the threads a little bit, tighten it up, and then break it free. And luckily that was successful. There it is. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove the top half of this air box just to give me enough space when I'm pulling the cooler out. That way I'm not fighting it. Flip this around to get a little bit easier access to the connector for your mass airflow sensor. There it is. And now we can go ahead and get this out of the way. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and get these coolant lines out of the way. We're going to be bypassing this since we're going to be eliminating it since it's a part of the EGR cooler. We'll just be bypassing it from here to here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I'm going to do that. Just going to go ahead and use a pair of dikes, cut these clamps, make sure nothing falls into the intake, obviously. Let's go ahead and cut those off. Go. Let's remove those. The kit's going to come with a smaller hose barb and 2 smaller hose clamps. Give these a little twist. There we go. Try to limit our mess here. Go ahead and slide that in there. Slide our hose clamp on. Pop off this other side. Slide our barb in. I need our second hose clamp. There we go. All right, so now that we've got the coolant lines bypassed over here, we can go ahead and start to remove the actual exhaust pipes of the EGR cooler. You're going to want to save these gaskets as well. They do get reused, so you're going to want to go ahead and save these. There's the 2 bolts we got earlier, the 2 here, and then there's also a bracket located right here. Go ahead and take that off. Just like that. So this pipe here, there is a EGT, exhaust gas temperature sensor probe. The connector is down here. Let me see if I can shine a light on that. The connector is right there. It is clipped into the bottom of the intake there. Just disconnect that. Then you're going to want to pop that connector off of there. There we go. That slides right off. And now we're ready to remove this pipe. More back. There we go. Comes up and out. And you're also going to need to save these gaskets as well, because they will be reused on both sides. So once you get those exhaust pipes off, it's a good time to take a break. And one of the big benefits of living in Kansas City is awesome barbecue. Oh yeah. Would you look at it? That. Yup. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Alright, so we're back from lunch. Now we're ready to do pretty much the most difficult part of the job, which is actually unbolting and removing the cooler itself. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to unclip this heater hose right here. It's fairly simple to do. You have 2 locking tabs, one on each side of that hose. If you have a pocket screwdriver or a small flathead, you can push in the clip one side at a time while you're pulling on the hose itself, and it'll eventually come free and you can pop it off there. The only reason we have to remove that is because it overlaps the EGR cooler and prevents us from actually being able to lift the cooler up off of the studs. So one of the first things we have to do is remove these 8mm bolts off the front of the EGR cooler, and they hold the harness onto it. They're 8mm. There's two 8mm bolts. That's all it is. And that will allow us to free this harness from the front of the EGR cooler. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and disconnect all the other electrical connectors and vacuum lines off the top of the EGR cooler. Most of these connectors are fairly easy to take apart. For example, this one here, there's just a little red safety lock. You push that down, then you use a pocket screwdriver or a pick to lever it up, and it disconnects just like that. Pull this coolant line up out of the way. It's gonna leak a little bit of coolant as you drop it down, but nothing to worry about. Alright, so from there, that'll give us access to the bolts in the very back of the EGR cooler. All the way in the back here, there's a 10mm nut on a stud that holds a bracket for a pressure sensor. So you're going to need more than likely a 1/4 inch 10mm on a swivel. Something like that, similar to this. Something to allow you to get back there. It's a little bit hard to reach. Not to drop it. And there it is. Set that aside. That'll allow you to lift the bracket up and off of the stud. All right, so once you get, there's 7 bolts holding the EGR cooler in. There are 2 13mm with studs on the top. There's 2 shorter 8mm, and then there's 3 long 8mm. One on each side and one in the center, just behind the EGR, the actual valve actuator itself. Once you get those up, you're going to need to use a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver or something similar to free the EGR cooler off of the cylinder head. So I just pried right here off the throttle body, as you can see in here, the coolant is currently draining down into a pan I have down under the truck. So now that that's free, we're ready to pull it out of there. All right, so there you go. That's the removal process. It is a little messy. I probably should have drained the coolant, but you know, it happens. A little bit of, managed to keep the truck dry, but can't say the same for the floor. So yeah, we got a little bit of cleanup, you know, a little spill, no biggie. But yeah, now we're ready to go ahead and start installing the block off plates and everything. Alright, so here's the cooler once it's removed from the truck. I'm just going to do a little overview on the bolts you have to remove to get it out of the truck. There are 3 long 8mm, this one, and this one right here, and they all look just like this. You then have 2 medium length 8mm, one here, one over here, and then you have 2 13mm. These are the hardest to get. They're in the back towards the firewall of the truck. This one is a little bit different. Like I mentioned earlier, it does have a bracket on it that has a 10mm nut holding it on, so you will have to take that 10mm nut off prior to being able to reach the 13mm hex head. So those are the 7 bolts that need to be removed in order to remove the EGR cooler from the truck. Yep. Okay, so now we're going to want to go ahead and remove this EGT sensor probe from this section of exhaust pipe. We're going to be transferring it over to this this block off plate here. You might want to just wipe off the all the carbon buildup and everything off the end of this probe, just for good measure. It is a tapered seat, so when you do secure it into the new block off plate, you just want to make sure that that tapered area doesn't have any big carbon chunks or any buildup there. You don't want to over tighten this, just nice and snug, it's fine. And we're ready to install that in the vehicle now. Alright, so now we're gonna, off camera I just removed the 90-degree rubber vacuum elbow that goes to the actual valve of the EGR valve. You just want to go ahead and pop that off and put the cap that's supplied with your block off plate kit. Just want to cap that vacuum line off, and then later on we'll tuck it off to the side somewhere and probably zip tie it up nice and neat. We're ready to go ahead and pop the block off plates on. We're going to go ahead and put this one in first. It's also a good idea to put a little bit of anti-seize on these bolts, just in case if you ever need to disassemble it later on down the road, you won't, hopefully you won't run into any seized bolts or anything like that. Alright, now we have the block off plate for up here, and it is, where did I put it? So that one right there with the reused factory gasket. Just gonna go ahead and put that one on. Make sure it's nice and tight. Alright, so the last block off plate we have is the coolant block off plate. And as you see, it has these installation dowels for when you're installing the or removing, installing the EGR cooler. Also the diesel rates kits block off plate has the holes for the dowels. Just want to make sure this is nice and clean. Make sure your O-ring isn't completely crushed or anything like that. Just wipe down that surface. You want to blow out these thread holes as well. Just make sure there's no residual coolant pulled up in there or anything like that. I think this one is, yeah, this one's drilled all the way through, so you don't have to worry about it on this one, but this one does bottom out in the valve cover. So you probably want to blow that out and just make sure there's no coolant pulled in there. And we'll just go ahead and line that up. Throw our screws in there. Plug in our temp sensor, slide it into the bracket. Right there. It's a little snug, but it's fine. And all right, so that pretty much is it. That's the install of a EGR delete / block off plate kit on a 2017 and up Ford 6.7 diesel. If you're fairly mechanically inclined, you can probably do it on your own by yourself in your garage. There's not really any special tools needed. The only thing I would mention is that you need to be extra cautious when removing these screws, especially the inside screw, like I mentioned previously, for that exhaust pipe, because they're prone to break. So just really take your time and be patient and don't overdo it, and you should be fine. In the future of the channel, I'm probably going to be doing not just stuff on this truck, but I'm going to be doing a lot of different vehicles. I primarily work on European cars and BMWs, and used to be into race cars a little bit, but I'll probably be doing some work on this, which is a 2009 4.8 X5. It needs valve seals. I'll probably be making some videos on that as well. And I recently purchased a 2011 335 diesel. Unfortunately, I've already fully deleted this car, so it no longer has the DPF, the SCR, or anything like that. It's got a JR 2.8 tune on it. I would have liked to have made some videos on that process, but unfortunately I didn't have a camera at the time. But who knows, you know, maybe in the future might do some upgrades to this thing, maybe hybrid turbos, bigger fuel pump. We'll see what I can get away with. But that's pretty much it. I hope you found this video helpful, and hopefully it encourages you to take on a bigger project. And if you like the video, please subscribe. I'll be putting out some more content hopefully in the near future. So thank you. Have a good one.